Evo nas meni se čini treći puta smo u društvu, pa mogu se slobodno izraziti, najpoznatijeg i najvećeg svjetskog aktivista kada je u pitanju vjerovatno i najveća i najpoznatija svjetska biljka. Riječ je naravno o kanabisu, a sa moje desne strane je nama vrlo drag gost Rick Simpson, koji uvijek dođe iz Kanade u Hrvatsku, Sloveniju, regiju i dijeli s nama najnovije iskustva. Hi Rick.
Good to be back with you, brother.
It's third time, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. In maybe a year after our last interview, there was some quantum progress in whole picture of cannabis in the region. Mm-hmm. What is happening here in Croatia, Slovenia, and the whole world?
Well, everyone's waking up to the reality of the fact that this medicine is the best medicine. It's just what I told everyone. It's the greatest medicine on the planet, and it's good in all medical situations, especially cancer and serious illnesses like that.
What are the main differences in legislation between maybe USA, Canada, or European Union?
Well, I mean, they have all kinds of laws, statutes, acts in place, against the medicinal use of this plant, but in reality, they're all based in corruption. None of these laws are real. I mean, this is a God-given plant. It's non-addictive. It's harmless. Nobody has ever died from its effects. So who has the right to outlaw it? Whoever had the right? So as far as I'm concerned, these people are all being put in jail over this plant. They're being locked up over laws that in truth do not even exist. So we have to get back to reality, and we have to throw these laws in the trash can. So we need these laws totally repealed.
Yeah, you said that nobody died from this plant, right. But there is a lot of anti-propaganda now about that fact, and I think that's the main the main cause of situation that something is really going on because they are frightened.
Well, I mean, cannabis was so deadly. I mean, I've been eating in the really high quality oils myself now for 13 years, so you can see the detrimental effects it's had on me and my body and my thinking. It does no harm. I think a lot of these politicians actually believe their own propaganda. But if you look at the real research, if you look into this plant, the history of it, and the medicinal use of it, it's like I said, it's man's oldest known and safest medication. And and I mean, to even doctors that claim they don't know anything about this, any doctor that says they don't know nothing about cannabis or its uses in medicine, I don't consider them to even know their trade. Because, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, the old pharmacopoeias were almost wall-to-wall hemp. I think it was used in over 600 different medications. Cannabis was an ingredient, and a very important ingredient. But yet these doctors today, we don't know anything about cannabis. Well, I'm an engineer by trade. I can tell you about steam engines that were built 300 years ago because I know my trade. Now, why do these doctors claim they don't know anything about the most medicinal plant on earth? And if they don't know anything about it, I think they should learn.
Yeah, there are a lot of studies about plant, and here in Croatia, doctors just don't want to read about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, quite true, but I mean, it is reality. I mean, the bottom line is the medicine that I provide to people, or I was providing in Canada, it actually follows the Hippocratic Oath. And that's the basis of medicine. First, do no harm. And I wish that these doctors that were all standing against the use of this medicine would do the same and follow their own sacred oath, because they're breaking their own Hippocratic Oath. And to my estimation, that makes them nothing more than drug dealers for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. What do you think about this attention of corporate industries that is going on? And corporate industries of big pharma are going in hemp world, all over the world.
Well, they're trying to patent the natural cannabinoids of this plant, and as I've stated many times now, I mean, no one should be allowed to patent a natural plant or the cannabinoids that it can, the healing cannabinoids that it can provide. I mean, if that was the case, then why don't I go out and patent air? And then when you breathe, you owe me money. Like when it comes to medicine, I don't believe in patents. I think that anything that's beneficial for the human race should not be patented. And I think that the public should be aware, of the healing ability, the true healing abilities of many of these different herbal remedies, like cannabis. And because we've been lied to, we've never been told the truth about any of it.
Rockefeller Foundation is also lobbying for this pharma work also in South America. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, all of these big banking interests, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Warburgs, and all these other big banking families, they're the ones that are actually controlling our earth, because they run our governments. They run the organizations like the UN and the World Health Organization. It's all run by the big money, and it's all run for their benefit. And that's the problem with this earth right now, is because the public actually has nobody to represent them. The governments are bought and paid for, and I mean, they run the legal system, the medical systems, and everything else in their countries. And they're designing it so these people can make huge profits while the public dies.
When we talk about oil, we are talking about Rick Simpson's oil. Yeah. And is there any state or country in the world that legalized this oil or this type of medical treatment?
Well, I mean, this is what's happening right now with all of these countries. I mean, China's legalizing, Chile, Romania, Switzerland, all of these different countries all over the place are legalizing. And, they're not saying why, they're just saying they're legalizing medicinal cannabis. But I mean, the people in the cannabis movement, they've been growing around for decades, blowing smoke in people's faces, and that never got the right attention. What's actually bringing this legalization about is the oil, because so many people now are aware of the amazing healing abilities that it possesses. So that's what's really causing this revolution.
We could talk about battle between those who legalize oil and between who wants to monopolize industry with pharma companies, like maybe Netherlands.
Well, there's many of the pharmaceutical companies are trying to get their foot in the door and control, the use of this medicine and supply it and all of this. But it's like I said, if they get their dirty hands on it, they'll want a fortune for it. And from what I understand, many of the companies are looking at mixing the cannabinoids, which is actually the cure, in with the chemo, which is actually the poison.
I think that this initiative came from Spain or something.
Well, I think that was Manuel Guzman. I used to have respect for his research, but after he went with GW Pharmaceuticals, I don't trust anything the man says anymore.
Yeah, but he is a big authority, so...
Well, he's a big authority for the pharmaceutical industry. I'm a big authority for the people.
Yeah, that's right. And there are a lot of problems with names and phrases about names of swords and seeds. In some country, some seeds are called the same way, but there are other seeds from maybe Croatia and Canada.
Well, I mean, there's seeds, even when I was in Canada, I was a breeder. I had 40 strains of my own, and there's people that actually have hundreds of strains of their own. So I think that our seed supply is quite safe, although I have heard about genetic modification, and I guess Monsanto and some of their companies, they're into genetically modifying cannabis too. But like I said, we should put a stop to Monsanto. No more genetic modification, because it's a crime against us all.
What about some other plants, like psychedelic plants? There are also some substances like DMT and others that are doing a whole lot of good in health.
Well, there's many medicinal plants, but like I said, the problem is most of the true research into these plants has been hidden from us. So this is something I would like to do in the future. I mean, first I want to perfect these oils to its highest medicinal levels. And then I want to research other medicinal plants and report my findings to the public, because I don't think the public can trust anyone else to do it. The researchers have known about the healing power of hemp for decades, but yet they sat there and they remained silent. The governments kept giving them their research grants, but they didn't talk. I mean, the Medical School of Virginia study was almost 40 years ago. So anybody that was a researcher in the field of cannabis would know about the results of that study. So why didn't they do something? And why did they have to wait for somebody like me to come along to stand up and bring the public the truth, when it actually should have been these researchers? That was their job, but instead it fell on my shoulders.
I think that there is a lot of also some kind of battle between public and politicians. Is the better way here in Croatia to do some kind of referendum for legalization, or to wait some politician options to do their job?
Well, I mean, you could stage some type of referendum, and because the people in Croatia, a lot of the people in Croatia do know the truth about this medicine. So a referendum might be effective, and if they don't, if the government doesn't act upon that referendum, then they're actually how do they word that? They're not. They're not, well, obviously they're not working for the people, but there's a term for that. The government is in dishonor if they're not representing their people. So it might be a way that you could actually force governments, to do something that would make some sense for a change.
But they have their law elements that would block results of referendum. So
well, again, that law,
we already saw it in Croatia. So
yeah, but these laws are based in corruption.
Yeah,
we're not. It's like I said, why are we going to jail for laws that don't even exist?
Yeah, but it's pretty cruel. But I think that whole Croatia is based on corruption. So
well, that's the same in all countries, brother. I don't think it's just Croatia, believe me.
And media and politicians want to do some big spin. They want plant cannabis to disperse in three ways: industry, medical way, and recreation.
Yeah.
And they are talking about three different ways. What we need to do to make one plant for all things? What is our media job?
Well, I mean, there are plants, medicinal plants that you could grow almost in an industrial manner, but to me, like industrial, they plant the plants very close together to get them to grow tall, so they have the long fiber, to work with for industrial. And of course, you get the seeds off the top and things like that. But for medicinal purposes, I like to space the plants and let them actually fill out, because in many cases, these heavy indicas will get just as wide as they grow tall. So that's the way I prefer to grow them. But to me, this plant is just simply cannabis hemp. It was known all through history as that. All farmers called it hemp, no matter if they were growing a variety that had a lot of resins and would get you high, or if they were growing a variety that was industrial. It didn't make any difference to the farmers. It was all hemp. So this is what I think we should go back to, because, like I said, it never harmed anyone. Nobody ever died from its effects. There was never any reason to outlaw it in the first place. So, like I said, put these laws in a trash can. Get rid of them.
When you understand that the plant is one, they are doing this playing with other words like liberalization, legalization.
Well, I mean, they say decriminalization. Well, that means there's going to be all kinds of, regulations involved, and even legalization. It's like I said, why should you legalize something that in truth was always legal anyway? It's like I said, just repeal the laws, get rid of them, and let the people grow this plant. Let them grow whatever number they want. I mean, do I care if you grow 1,000 cannabis plants in your backyard or 10,000? I couldn't care less. And if we were all growing this plant, and which I say we all have the right to do, well, then the prices for good medicinal bud that we can heal people with would come down to practically nothing. Instead of paying these great big prices, you'd be able to buy a kilo of high-grade hemp bud for $5 or $10.
Yeah, we need just to go back to history, maybe 30 years ago, or to see other countries in our region, like Albania.
Yeah, Lazaret. Yeah, they got the right idea. Chase the government out. Yeah.
And the last question, what is the future of cannabis and other healthy plants?
Well, all plants, the use of all plants is going to increase in medicine in the future. There's not much doubt in my mind. But it's cannabis itself that actually gives mankind a real future, because it can detoxify our planet, it can solve our energy problems, we don't need fossil fuels and nuclear power plants. All we need is the ethanol and different fuels that can be produced from cannabis to supply our energy needs. It puts an end to starvation, because the seeds are the most nutritious form of food on earth. So if you have lots of cannabis, you're going to have lots to eat. And then there's 50,000 other different things that can be produced in earth-friendly hemp-based industries, and that would put an end to unemployment. So everyone would have a job, everyone would be happy and healthy, and I think it's the greatest thing that could happen to Croatia.
Yeah, you once, I think in last interview, you said that it would be a better world would be a better place that one day everybody smokes some weed. I think that's.
Well, that's literally true. Yeah, if everyone got up tomorrow morning and lit a joint, the world would be a better place, because it makes people look at things in a bit more rational way, and it calms them down. It takes a lot of stress out of their life. So, like I said, even the smoking aspect can only be looked at as a form of preventative medicine. So, actually, the system does not have a leg to stand on. I know when I was in Parliament in Slovenia, there was only one person there from the government, and she got up and she went on about the gateway effect. And of course, when I got up, I blew a hole right through that because, you know, I agreed with her. I said, yes, it does. It is a gateway drug, but it's a gateway back. It doesn't lead you to the use of these hard drugs. It leads you away from them because we're taking people off hydromorphine and these heavy addictive opiates. Usually in a week and a half to 2 weeks, we can take them off these horrible substances and let the oil replace them. So, I mean, it's like I said, it's a gateway back, and we can get all of these people, you know, break the addictions of so many people today that are addicted to pharmaceutical drugs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.